Welcome back,
Right.
everybody. Two Deans and No Waiting. My name is Dean, and here filling in for Dean today is Kaz. Thank you, Kaz, for joining. As you can see, we're on location in our houses. We're doing maintenance in our studio. Next week we'll be back to normal, and we're gonna have a show today. We decided to do a stream, and I want to start off by talking about clear and present danger here. All the stuff going on between India and Pakistan.
Yeah.
But I hear that they're getting ready to go to war. From what the Canadian prepper, or not the Canadian prepper, I should say, the New York prepper says, and his sources are saying the Pakistani intel said 24 to 48 hours there will be a war. India is going to invade Pakistan, from what I understand. To elaborate back on history, this goes back 50, 60 years. This goes back during the British Empire, when the British Empire left India. Basically, they, the divide and conquer, right?
Yeah.
So
Sure.
what happened was they created the country of Pakistan, and it started a war between the Pakistanis and the Indians, and they're fighting over a little land called Kashmir, from what I understand. And I guess this started, for some reason, the Pakistani or the Indian government shut off the water supply to Pakistan. And this has been a few days now, and they've been massing troops to the border. Have you heard anything about this? This is some breaking news right now.
Yeah, that's pretty much the same thing that I've heard. And first of all, I want to say thank you, Dean, for having me back. I really love being on the show. I really appreciate you asking me to be here and be your co-host.
No
Means a
problem.
lot to me. But thank you so much.
You're welcome.
But yeah, that's what I'm hearing too. Is that it's all about the water survival. Survival of the fittest. And just like you said, this battle goes back decades and decades and decades.
Years,
They've been
but
fighting for
British Empire, man,
so
wherever
long.
they divide and conquer. From what I understand, I'm going back during Gandhi's time. Gandhi went to the Queen and said, "Hey, you guys got to get the hell out of India, because if you don't, there's going to be bloodshed." England left, and when they left, they created. Once England and the blood money of England and Rothschild money took over the Middle East. Look, I mean, is what's happening. Everything is this like the fall of the old British Empire, or what?
It is. It's lining up like all of the folklore books have been saying. The new world order. Is it really coming to pass? Is the new world order really coming? I mean, look at the whole situation. I mean, the Middle East has been just a mess for decades and decades, but this, I mean, Jesus beats. Every time you turn around, it seems like there's a new war or that's been going on for forever and ever. But yeah, the India and Pakistani, they hate each other. They've hated each other for so long. There's always been a rivalry, or lack of a better term, between
Hindus
them.
and it's Hindus and Muslims, and I do know that the Indian president Modi, he's a nationalist, and he's hardcore. He doesn't like the Muslims, and like I said, I don't know who's to blame for this, but this goes back during after England left India. At one time, Pakistan was part of India, and then
Yes,
they
it was. Yes.
their own state of their own country, and it goes back 50, 60 years, like you said. Now I don't know, is this just a big nothing burger, or I mean, these two countries have weapons of mass destruction.
Well, I don't think it's a nothing burger, only because of how much is going on right now. I mean, there's trouble everywhere you look in the Middle East. I mean, you name me a country that isn't at war right now.
Well, yeah, you have Azerbaijan and Uzbekistan. You have, of course, Israel and everybody. You have, I mean, how many proxy wars we have with the United
Speak
States?
about Israel. Let me ask you a question about those. I just want to deviate for a second, then we'll go right back to India, Pakistan. Those fires in Israel. Do you
Oh,
think they're done on purpose?
now, see, this is, oh my gosh, there's so many things that are going on right now, and you touched upon something there that's very interesting. That's energy weapons, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing that happened in Hawaii, happened in California. Yeah, these are energy weapons from satellite that have started a fire. Now, who did it? You know, I
Well,
mean, was this, apparently is Netanyahu going to blame Hamas, the political organization created by the Israeli government?
right.
That's a good question, because I was going to ask you. Now we're kind of, teetering off into, but it's kind of everything's linked together, like we said on this show. We try to be awake, but what do you think? I'll ask you.
Well, let me ask you two questions. Number one, is anything painted blue? That's what I want to know. And then the other thing comes to mind is, do they want to build some 15-minute cities? I don't know.
You know what? Maybe they do. Now, I don't know much about. I mean, I do know that Israel's on fire, but I happen to believe it's not natural fire. Never know any natural fires in never. Now,
Not like that. No, no.
this was done deliberate. You're saying so they can create the 15, 20-minute cities like they want.
Oh my God, yeah, it's happening it's happening in the U.S. But anyway, I don't want to get to the U.S. just yet. I still want to stay with India and Pakistan before we go too far.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, as far as India and Pakistan, I mean, like you said, you have war waging on between Azerbaijan, Armenia. You have Iran and Israel in a proxy war. You have the United States and Russia in a proxy war. But from what I hear, they're coming up with signing a peace agreement as we speak right now. But how ironic that they get ready to sign a peace agreement and not even 24 hours later, as they're negotiating, India and Pakistan are flaring up. Is that a coincidence?
Well, peace deals are just that. It's a deal, and then someone always folds on the deal, usually within 24 and 48 hours. Look how many deals there have been between U.S., Russia, and Ukraine. I don't know, a half a dozen maybe, and not one of them has come to light. But
Right.
I think it's really important that we touch on, especially for the new people that are here, that they got to understand that the news is portraying as like all of this is new war, all of this is new information. You guys got to do your research. This is not new. These wars are not anything new.
Oh,
They've been
right.
going on for decades and decades. So if you're new here, make sure you do your own research and dig for that truth, because just like you said, Dean, these have been going on for decades and decades. Find the truth for yourself. Do some homework.
And I do believe that there's a rogue element that wants a big war. It looks
Oh,
like
absolutely. The
there is.
U.S. wants war. There's no doubt. The U.S. wants war.
Well, I think some people within a lot of people within the Trump administration definitely want a war, but I don't think really Trump wants to, and let me explain why. Because he's got a big ego. He's got a big ego. If he can stop a war and get credit for it, he will. Now, Israel does whatever the hell they want. We know that. And a lot of people in Trump's administration are Zionists. And Israel does want some kind of war with Iran, which scares me. And unless that's just smoke and mirrors. But see, if this is all true and Israel wants a war, they're going to do a false flag. I mean, look at the USS Liberty. Look at the USS Maine. Look at what just happened recently in Israel. Was a fucking total inside job. Total
That's
Mossad.
that,
Look at
and
9/11
that's the thing.
to
That's
justify. Go back. Let's go back history. Let's go back 2,000 years. Nero
yeah.
Caesar burned Rome to blame the Christians, so he justified killing them. Nothing has changed.
Nothing has changed, and that's what I'm saying is, like, we don't find that it's a false flag until years after the fact, and that's so terrible. It is. But you can take anything that happened in America, pretty much has been a false flag, but they never tell you that up
No,
front.
of course not. Of course, they're not going to tell you that there's a false flag. I mean, you can wake up tomorrow and there's U.S. military bases. They blow up in the Middle East. Who do you think they're going to blame? They're going to blame Iran, or a dirty bomb goes off in Manhattan. Who do you think they're going to blame? They're
Or
not
that
going
or
to
the Houthis or somebody else, you know, they're going to blame somebody.
of course, but that might not happen. But let me ask you a question. Do you think that there'll be a war between India and Pakistan, or is this just smoke and mirrors?
You know, the fight for survival, when it comes down to it, my best answer would be look at what Japan did to the United States. And most people don't realize that. When I was in high school, I was taught one day Japan woke up and said, screw it, we're going to attack the United States.
We bomb
They
Pearl Harbor.
never teach,
No more.
they never teach why Japan attacked the United States. And this is my answer. If you just hear me out, Japan was starving to death. They didn't have a choice. So, do I think there's going to be a war between India and Pakistan? I do when it gets to that point. If they're cutting off the water, like reports are saying, it's only going to be a matter of time, like days, before there's an all out war because you have to have water to live. And yes, if that is absolutely true, it will be a war. There will be a war if the reports are accurate.
Now, this is my question is we just know India shut their water supply off. Why? Now, to elaborate on what you said during World War II, you're exactly right. They never tell us what happens. They never say that America put an oil embargo on Japan. And Japan said, if you put an oil embargo on our country, we're going to go to war. It's the same thing with the Lusitania.
Yeah.
With the Lusitania in the water, what did the Germans say? Do not put that fucking boat in the water. What do? They put that fucking boat in the water.
Right.
The boat in the water, and they blew it up.
Yep.
And so, I mean, come on. You're right. Absolutely. They never teach you nothing in school.
No,
they don't even want you to be self-sufficient. Look where we're at today. Every company wants to micromanage you, and you know that's the way the powers that be are. But I do believe that there is an awakening, and there has been. And like I said, not every faction of Trump's administration wants a war. This is not like I should say George W. Bush or King Bush, First Bush, or Bill Clinton. It seemed like, you know, they were more towards war. I mean, look at the Clinton. How many times did they bomb Serbia? They bombed the shit out of Serbia, right? I mean, we've been at war, like me and Dean always talked about. This country has been at war. Every decade, there's been a war since World War II.
Oh, absolutely.
World War II, and we got the World War II. You know, Kennedy's father was outspoken. He was totally speaking against Roosevelt. He also talked about how Roosevelt's going to get us into this war. He's going to get it, and they did. And it happened World War I, World War II. It's like they love using our military, and they're doing it today too. And that's what the globalists do, right? They start these.
That's what scares me about Trump is that lately his best friend has been Lindsey Graham. And if you know anything about Lindsey Graham is a war hawk for sure.
Oh, he's a piece of shit. I didn't hear that. Well, Lindsey Graham is yeah. I mean, he's just as bad as Netanyahu. Yeah. He's got a boner for war. Yeah. He hates Iran. He hates Russia. He's a total neocon. As Dr. Ron Paul said, stay away from the neocons. Stay away from them. They're the Zionists.
There's no doubt.
They wrote the PNAC. If people don't know what the PNAC is, I suggest you read the PNAC, Project Century for a New America. It talks about 9/11, before 9/11. It's a new Pearl Harbor event, Harbor event to get us into the Middle East, to raise the military budget, create the government apparatus that we see today. Big Brother. I mean, yeah. And look, as last week, if you watched on our show, I learned that also, 9/11 was a false flag. But what else did it do? It trickled down to the medical industry, and how medical tyranny you see today is laws they set up after 9/11. It's insane, isn't it? I know we're jumping all over, but there's a lot of things going on. Yeah.
Again, for the newbies, the PNAC has been around for at least 15 years.
No, since 2000. The PNAC was written in 2000 by neocons like Dick Cheney and Wolfowitz and Rumsfeld. These guys.
Yeah.
These wrote the PNAC, and they talked about a Project Century for a New America and what they need to do to expand the military and change the government as we know it. And that was 9/11. It was a false flag with an inside job. But look where we're at today. You know, I mean, you got cameras everywhere. They can no more due process. It seems like no due process at the border. I mean, they're trying to get that straightened out now. But I mean, as far as you and I, they don't even read your Miranda rights anymore. They can search.
No. In fact, Trump just made it legal to search and seize your house. If they think there's illegals in your house, they can enter your house without a warrant now.
Well, that changed after 9/11. He really didn't have to do anything. They can search and seize your house without a permit from the judge or a court.
Well, Trump just stepped it up. They don't even need to go to a judge anymore. If ICE or whomever thinks that you're harboring illegals, they now can bust down your door per Trump.
You know what? It's kind of like the John Warner Authorization Act or the National Defense Authorization Act. When Obama, he enhanced it. You know, Bush started it and Obama enhanced it. This is what you're saying Trump's doing. So,
for sure.
And you know what? I don't know if you watched the show last week, but we did have a nice lady on here.
We did. Show. It was, in fact, fantastic as a terrible word to use because of they're killing for money. It's freaking unbelievable.
Right.
And just so you know, we all live in the same state where the young lady's husband was killed.
Yes, exactly. And yeah, it was sad listening to that, but that tells you how serious this stuff is. And like I said, this show is to make people aware of what's really going on. We don't listen to the media here. I mean, I do kind of listen to what the enemy is saying, but
right. And that's the only reason why I listen. You know, I catch it once in a while to find out what they're lying about.
Right. And there's just so much stuff going on right now. And I do want to talk more about the shots, and which kind of is what we were talking about last week. We talked about how hospitals were euthanizing people and the government and the bureaucrats giving them the power, giving the institution power to step in and kill people. And I kind of believe David Icke even more now, like I said, that I don't even think there was a pandemic. There was no pandemic. There was more fear mongering, and the people were dying from the medicine they were giving them and the protocol. And they were saying,
I think everybody knows at least one person. Everybody knows at least one person that is damaged from the vaccine. My brother, for instance, you know, direct relative of my brother, he couldn't figure it out. He had five jabs, five of those. You want to guess how many mini strokes he had, Dean?
How many?
5. He had 5 of these and 5 mini strokes.
Unbelievable.
Crazy.
Unreal.
Crazy.
You know, an article we read on Natural News, I think you send it to me. We want to talk about that. 30% of birth defects from women who've taken the vaccine. I'm sure it's probably even more than that. The majority of
but even at that, 30% is staggering. Just staggering.
It's probably more
from the health ranger, Natural News. You know, great source, Mike Adams. Yeah, fantastic source. You know, 30% of the women who took the vaccine are now more or less sterilized.
They can't have kids.
You cannot have kids.
And the ones that have had kids, their kids, died. You know,
they either die or they're miscarriage or they're deformed or there's major problems. All related to the vaccine.
I'm ready for Nuremberg trials 2.0. That's what I'm ready for. And I would love to see grassroots here to bring more awareness to people, because I know that how many people know somebody who's been hurt from the jab.
I think everybody knows at least one person, whether it's a family, friend, coworker, what have you. Everybody knows somebody that got hurt.
and it's crazy. I mean, and I just want people to be more aware. And but like I said, there's a step in the right direction. I do see a change that at least you have Bobby Kennedy Jr. coming out talking against the vaccine, talking about they want to research more, and there's links between the vaccines that have been taken, and not just the DNA therapy vaccine we've been talking about, the corona vaccine, but just the flu vaccines or the vaccines that these kids get when they're born. They're saying there's links to, in which you and I know, but now it's becoming mainstream that, hey, there could be linked to autism. That's a
Well, yeah,
step.
I've been studying vaccines since 1990. In fact, that was my platform on how I became awake. But that's where I started in 1990, because in the 1990s is when the autism rate really began to take off. And that is when the regimen for vaccines, for childhood vaccines, equally started to take off, was in the early 1990s. And I was married to my first wife at the time. We were having problems having children. And that was one of the things that we were afraid about. We were concerned about the rising autism rate in the 1990s. And now here we are 35 years later. What is it? Like for the males, it's like one autistic case in every 30 boys now. That's insane.
Unbelievable. I mean, you have to draw a link between the two. And as Bobby
Yeah.
Kennedy said, I agreed with him a year or 2 years ago when I was listening to him. He started talking about on his campaign that, hey, when he was a kid, there was hardly any autism. There weren't any peanut allergies.
I
There
know.
was
Yes, yes. The food allergies come from the vaccines. Yes.
a lot
And
of them. Yeah,
Dean, let me ask you a question. How come the Amish don't have autism?
because they don't have television.
Because they don't have television. Yes, exactly. Because they don't have television. Yes, that's exactly why.
Did you watch last week? Because I said that on my show. Because
Yeah,
I
that's exactly
know
why.
that.
Yeah,
Hey,
because they don't have television.
the,
That's right.
the reason why they didn't get the coronavirus is they don't have television.
Yeah.
And I believe that a
Isn't that
lot of it is
something?
fear based. But
Isn't that something?
but let me tell you, the vaccine is more than just fear based. It's true. It's a lot
Love
of
it.
people sick. They're tainted. A lot of these vaccines are tainted. And like I said, I think more people are becoming aware of it. That's a big issue, man. The 30% of women are having miscarriages
Yes.
from the vaccine, from the corona vaccine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is extremely high. I mean,
And-
one
right.
in three women. Wow.
That's a lot. And I just hope that they're really exposed more. And we're going to hold their feet to the fire because that's what they're saying. They're going to release more information. He's saying we're going to definitely find a link between vaccines and autism. Okay, let's hold your feet to the fire. Do it. It's about time they're even talking about it. And some states have gotten rid of dyes. Some states even
Yeah, they're
was it
trying to get rid of the guys now, which I find interesting.
well,
I
what was
really
it?
find that interesting because why did they wait so long, so long to now get rid of the dyes? That's interesting to me.
Well, you could still go get Roundup. That gives cancer.
Right, and that's crazy. That is
Right.
crazy.
How they, and I talked about how these government agencies are really private. They're not really part of the government. They're working for the companies that are spewing out these poisons, right? And they got their
Well, that's why
insiders in.
that's why they're called nonprofits. I mean, nonprofits today in today's world, nonprofits is a scam. I mean, back 30, 40, 50 years, being a nonprofit actually meant something, but not anymore. Nonprofit, man, you label yourself a nonprofit, you might as well consider yourself an organized crime group at this point.
But you are. Most of them are slush funds.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
racketeering. That's what it is. But you know
Well,
what?
organized crime at the end of the day.
We talked about the vaccines, and we had a whole show about how corrupted the medical industry is, and innocent
It's
people died. We're not going to forget that. And I want to talk about this. Is interesting. I don't know if you know it, but I read an article It talked about how the helicopter disaster at Reagan Airport was intentional. Did you hear about
Yeah,
that?
yeah. It was the
Yeah.
lady was a DEI hire, and she didn't want to listen to her co-pilot. It's crazy.
So what exactly happened? I was reading an article saying that that helicopter crash was done deliberate. Was there somebody important on board? What's going on?
Oh, wait. Are we talking about the same one? You talking about where the whole family died?
I'm talking about, remember back in January where there was a helicopter at Reagan Airport? They were doing military maneuvers. It was a military helicopter that crashed. They said it wasn't an accident. They said it was
Okay.
actually deliberate.
Because
So
there's
I don't know.
is so what? So I'm trying to clarify. Is that the one that crashed into the plane?
I think so.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah, that's what I thought you meant. That's the one I thought you meant. Yes.
Talking
So
about.
yeah, so that was the lady was an actual DEI hire, and she refused to listen to the co-pilot. The co-pilot told her to watch out, change her course, make some changes, and she absolutely refused to do that, and then end up crashing into the plane. Yeah, it's crazy.
So that was just negligence, or was it done deliberately because there was somebody important on the plane or the helicopter?
I think it was more negligent just because she was a DEI hire. Certainly wasn't qualified to fly the helicopter.
There you
That's for
go.
sure.
Okay. So, all right. Okay. All right. I just wanted to know. That's why I'm asking, because I was reading about that, wondering, this is interesting, because you never know. I mean, I can't listen to the mainstream media. I mean, I can't believe a word they say. you know, I
Well,
mean,
there's so many crashes nowadays. It's like it's either an airplane or a helicopter, and just referencing another helicopter crash where they killed that whole guy's family. Uh,
geez,
they killed him, his wife, all the kids, the pilot, and it broke apart in pieces in the sky. If you remember the big boom, and it
wow,
just fell to pieces. And
crazy.
yeah, that was just a couple weeks ago. So it's like, who are they trying to take out? Who are they trying to eliminate?
I mean, come on. I mean, does that surprise you?
No, doesn't surprise me at all.
Dead, dead men tell no tales. And I also want to talk about what's very interesting. I was listening to a show about Oklahoma City, and I've read about it, and I think that conspiracy is even more interesting than 9/11. Uh,
Well, I'm definitely well rehearsed on that because
but
um,
but before you go ahead, do you know who the first person was who visited Timothy McVeigh in prison? Do you know?
it should have it was more than likely the FBI.
Well, it was a doctor by the name of Julian West. You know who he was? Head of
Yeah.
MK Ultra.
Okay, MK Ultra.
Yeah, he was the head of the MK Ultra program, and he was
Wow.
the first person to visit Timothy McVeigh in prison. Unbelievable, huh? He was a part of the MK Ultra program.
Wow. Now that is something that I must have missed that part because that I don't know.
Yeah, well, he was a fall guy, but Dr. Julian West, do your research.
I'm gonna
This
check
guy's
that. It's
been a
interesting.
part of a lot of projects. And yeah, so what's that tell you? Why would he go visit Timothy McVeigh? Because he felt sorry for him.
Tells me a lot. Tells me a lot. Now
Part of
the
the MK.
reason
Answer
that
Hand was part of the MK Ultra program. You know who else? Jonestown. Remember Guyana tragedy? There's Charles Manson. You name it, man. A lot of
oh
these
yeah,
people, a lot of the shooters are a part of MK Ultra.
yes.
So you
Well,
want to elaborate on what you know that I know, and I wanted to start out that.
well, MK Ultra has deep roots tied into Michigan, and namely some of the big universities that are here in the state of Michigan are the ones that started the grassroots movement per se of the MK Ultra. I don't want to throw out names. I don't
The
want to get
Unabomber,
sued, but
the Unabomber.
there were some big universities here in this state that
Kaz.
were in the original startup of the MK Ultra, yes, and the Unabomber, yes, absolutely,
And he went to school at Michigan.
yeah,
I'm getting goosebumps going in the back of my head right now. He went crazy because of that. He
yeah,
was working for them. The Unabomber went crazy because he actually wanted that to stop because he
yeah.
knew what the government was doing with AI and all the technology that he knew back then was going to be pushed today. And he lost it. That's insane, isn't it?
Well, yeah, they probably had some kind of chip inside of his brain, I'm sure, or they make a phone call with a particular word. They use a startup word or something that just makes you go into a trance.
There's a movie called Telethon
Yes,
with Charles Bronson. It's
Tel-
so it's so funny. I can't find that anywhere anymore.
yeah,
And
telephone. Yes,
you can't you can YouTube anything, but you can't YouTube that. And Telethon is about what you just said. The KG, but in this movie, it was the KGB doing it, but it's the
yeah,
CIA, the same thing. They would call somebody and read them a poem, and it would turn him into a Manchurian candidate, and they'd go assassin somebody or blow
yes,
up a building. So
yes.
real. That's insane, isn't it?
Yeah, it is insane. A lot of those movies back in the 70s were accurate. They were very accurate. Yes.
Oh, it's a good movie. If people can find it, it's called Telephone with Charles Bronson, and it talks about what we're talking about, Manchurian candidate. And the CIA and the
Yeah.
KGB have been doing that for years. And it's crazy that that Oklahoma, that Timothy McVeigh was visited by the head of MK Ultra program, Dr. Julian West. But go ahead, keep talking about Oklahoma, because I think that's even more interesting than 9/11, because it was a conspiracy. The CIA was involved, the FBI was involved. There were a number of people involved. Timothy McVeigh was a part of that program, was an scapegoat, a lot like Sirhan Sirhan, or a lot like Lee Harvey Oswald, or even Osama bin Laden, who worked for the agency. They're all on the fucking payroll.
Right. If
You
you
might
look at the physics, if you look at the physics of the bomb that Timothy McVeigh supposedly had in the rental truck, okay, if anybody knows anything about physics, energy, just like electricity and water, is going to follow the path of least resistance. So when you have an explosion like that, it's not going to blow up the building. It's going to bounce off of the building because energy follows the path of least resistance. And there's several things that went on here. Is that the building looked like a cookie cutter had come down and just chopped off the front of the building. If you've ever made cookies as a kid with the little cutouts and all that, and you push the cutout into the dough, and then you get the cookie there, that's exactly what that building looked like. Like someone took a cookie cutter and cut off the face. But the damning information, if you can find the actual day, the news of the day that it happened, the reporters actually say that they found explosives inside the building
yeah.
that hadn't detonated yet. And
It
that tells you right there
was
that
an
that
implosion.
rental had nothing to do with it. It really didn't.
No, it was an implosion. There were bombs in the building, just like
Yeah,
9/11.
yeah.
It looked like it imploded. That's what. And I'm not going to believe that a Ryder truck with fertilizer blew up that whole building.
Now here's some other damning evidence that
That's
that
a
I that I tell people. Go look at that and look at the images that are still on the internet today and look at the surrounding buildings. If that bomb was supposedly so strong that one bomb did that to that building, why aren't other buildings damaged in the area? Because if you look at the surrounding buildings, they have minimal damage. So you're telling me that this massive bomb that blew up and blew off the facing of the building and cut out a big chunk of the building. You mean to tell me that all that energy that it took to do that did nothing to the surrounding buildings?
Right.
Really?
Right. That there were bombs planted in that building, and it looked like a demolition, just
Yeah.
like 11. It was imploded.
Just
Uh,
like Building 7.
I know with 9/11, there was probably energy weapons involved too, you know,
Yes.
which is different. But I mean, kind of that was a beta test of 9/11 right there. That was a test run. I mean, that was
Oh, yeah.
that in the first World Trade Center bombing. That's all. Come on.
Well,
Terry Nichols said he was recruited by the FBI.
yeah. Yes. Terry Nichols. Yes.
They recruit these guys. They find these people. They give them the idea. They set them up, and they're scapegoats. And there are other people involved. I mean, the FBI recruits people. The CIA, man, they wrote the book on it, Operation Northwoods. Man, we could talk about.
Well, here's the thing about Timothy McVeigh. Okay, and a lot of people don't know this. He lived in a farmhouse. He lived on Van Dyke. He lived like an hour north of where I'm currently at on
Yeah,
Van Dyke. The
that's
reason why I know this is when I go deer hunting in northern Michigan, I have driven past his house. I don't know how many times. And it was at that time, it was a big farming community. Maybe Timothy McVeigh was a loner or didn't have very many friends. And those are the people that they look for, the people that don't have that network of friends, that network of
the
good social
Lee,
uh,
Lee
people and support.
Oswald.
Right. They look for those oddball people, and then they just focus on them.
Right.
And I've driven past Timothy McVeigh's house countless times. I can literally take you there right now and show you exactly where he lived.
That's crazy.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
that close to you.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
It's only an hour away. Straight up Van Dyke.
Oh, well, maybe you're a Manchurian candidate. I don't know.
Wait, what?
Yeah, exactly. Somebody call you on the phone.
What did you say?
I'll be back. All of a
I
sudden, you
got
get
something I gotta go do.
up. The screen goes blank. I know there's something going on. No, but I'll tell you, Oklahoma was very interesting, and Oklahoma was very interesting how that all happened, and that was a big conspiracy. You had so many people involved with that. And like you said, the first reports were bombs were going off in the building. I said, that sounds a lot like 9/11.
Yeah.
Another inside job. They wanted to get the Patriot Act going. They couldn't. They did after 9/11. And
Yeah.
they created this beautiful police state, this quasi-police state, this big brother apparatus, long arm of the government, endless wars,
Endless wars. Yeah. Endless wars.
Act, what's the other one? The National Defense Authorization Act. All these draconian laws would have never been created if 9/11 didn't happen, and it did.
Correct.
And that's where we're at. It's 1984. It's George Orwell. He's just one of his wet dreams,
Oh,
But that's
terrible. It's coming true though. Every bit of it.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, Oklahoma is very interesting. But if there's something else you want to talk about,
Well, I mean, the reason why they had Oklahoma, the reason why there's many reasons why they did Oklahoma. Then the number one reason would be control. But if you remember, the FBI wasn't looking good at that point in time because they had just came off of Ruby Ridge.
right.
They had just come off of Waco. All of those mistakes that the FBI made, and the FBI looked terrible in the eyes of the public. So they really needed to do something to prop themselves up and make themselves relevant again.
Right. Yeah, you're right, because Ruby Ridge was awful. Of course, Waco was another. They killed kids, little babies.
Yeah.
Right after that, how ironic, you had Oklahoma, like what, 2-3 years after that.
Well, that's why I said they needed the FBI to really, create something so they can say, "Wow, look what we stopped. Look what could have happened, and look what could have been worse. Look what it could have led to. But geez, thank God we cut it off in time." You know what I'm saying?
Jeez. I mean, it's so crazy how they recruit people. And when I found out that Dr. Julian West, head of the MK Ultra program, visited Timothy McVeigh, what does that tell you? I mean that's DARPA there. MK Ultra, CIA, DARPA. It's scary.
Don't get me started on DARPA, man, because DARPA with the robots right now is ridiculous.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Look where we're at now, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could talk about DARPA too, and a lot. And I think
DARPA is how evil can they be? I mean, really.
yeah.
They actually have videos with those robots with real firearms using them. And who do you think they're going to use those firearms on?
I think us.
Yeah.
It's
For sure.
it's not going to be aliens. It's going to be
No.
us. Right.
No,
Definitely. I mean, we're always being targeted. They don't like your freedoms. We gotta fight. We gotta fight them there, so we don't fight them here. We gotta kill the evildoers. Remember
Yes,
that?
the doers.
Oh my goodness. I don't think any. I don't know. Things seem like they get worse.
Well, they have gotten worse, and people still want to vote. People still want to vote, and they still want to vote for. Well, if we can get this next president in there, then everything's going to be all right. And then the same thing happens again.
Well, I know, ain't that funny? Yeah, it seems like the what's that saying?
The
The
new
guard,
boss is just like the old boss.
changing of the guard, it never changes.
Yeah.
Right.
The only thing that changes is the face. That's it. Everything else stays the same.
What's that? Yeah, right.
But the only thing that changes is the face. Everything else stays the same.
Well, we got gold at $3,300 an ounce. Still going up. Bitcoin is back at 97,000. You have the tariffs now. Is he going to shit or get off the pot? Like I said,
and that's driving me nuts. One day they're on, next day they're off, then they're back on, then they're off, and it's like, what are we doing?
I said before that they're going to call his bluff. I don't know. Is it working? I mean,
I don't think so.
I totally blame him. I don't blame Trump administration for inflation. Inflation's been here. That's got more to do with the banks and Federal Reserves than anything. Of course, administrations can make it worse or make it better. Yeah, I don't totally blame him for the inflation. I just don't, as far as the tariffs go, I mean, okay, he does want a trade war. It's there. Well, I really don't think he wants a conventional war. We'll lose a conventional war, maybe. We can't go to war with Iran, China, and Russia. And right now, things look like they're getting better between Ukraine and Russia. And if I'll tell you what, and it's a hypothetical, I know things can change in 24 hours, but if you can create peace between Ukraine and Russia, the market will explode. So, and he's got that. He would want that. But like I said, there is a rogue element that wants a big crisis. There is a rogue element that does want war. So we'll see what happens, Yeah,
we'll see what happens. I'm still leaning towards that they want war, only because of the technology that is tied into the Trump administration and the Trump advisors. What's scary about the Trump advisors is that they're all billionaires, they're all friends, and the Trump advisors have nothing to do with politics. Zero. It's pretty damn scary. You've got billionaires that are basically running the government that are not elected officials. Not that elected officials mean anything because they're all communists and corrupt and criminals anyway. But yeah. So you have these billionaires and they're called the PayPal mafia, which I don't know. Some people get so angry when I talk about the PayPal mafia that they don't want to believe that it actually exists. All of these people, Trump, Vance, Peter Thiel, David Sachs, all of these people, Elon Musk, they've known each other. They've been in business together for over 15 years. And when you point it out to people, they get all angry.
But this is what I don't like the other side when they're sitting there, the Biden supporters, What are you bitching about? It was the same thing under the Biden administration, even worse. He was hiring people, you know, look at the corruption, the Biden family and the Clintons and Mitt Romney. They were making all that money, embezzling it in Ukraine. They were laundering money back. I don't want to hear from you. That's out of the frying pan fire, man.
And the Doge, I mean, you take the Doge, and they're all celebrating. Well, we cut this program, we cut that program, and this program, and
Look,
that program. But that money is only being redirected. It's not going into savings. It's only being redirected. That's all it's doing.
And it always does. They always do. Money always goes to like 3 or 4 people, right?
Yep.
It go to the masses. I know that. But there's no difference between any other administration. That's like if you became president, all of a sudden your brother-in-law is going to be head of the Department of Health. There's bureaucracy, there's nepotism, there's favoritism, and there's people that do business together. I mean, look at Halliburton. Okay,
Yeah.
let's go back 20 years. Oh, what happened?
And how many businesses do they own? Like 200?
Okay, who got all the contracts?
Right.
Halliburton. Everybody who was related, or I should say, everybody that was linked to Dick, and everybody that was related to or did business with Bush, they all were connected.
Yep.
Okay,
Rumsfeld.
so it's just a little bit of history repeating, man.
Yeah.
Crap.
Look how many people were tied to Rumsfeld too.
Oh my gosh! Remember the $1.2 trillion that were missing?
Yeah.
Before 9/11 in the Pentagon. What happened to that?
Well, you guys ask Rumsfeld what happened.
Well, I would have to get a seance going to get that done because he's not. God. I'm sure wherever he's at, and I'm pretty sure he's probably down there somewhere.
Oh, I'm sure he is. He's on fire.
Wasn't it? What's that? Oh, he's on
fire. Yeah, he's down there on fire for sure.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, like I said, Trump administration, Biden administration, the Clinton administration, come on, they do the same thing as far as they're going to hire people they know, right?
Yeah. Palantir company, they are huge. They are huge into AI. They are huge into cameras. They are huge into surveillance. And wow, who happens to own that company? I wonder who.
Yeah, Teal. Right.
Yeah, all of them. They've all got a part of it. They all get a piece of the pie.
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
So here's the thing, okay? So and this is again going back to the Doge again and how all this is tied together. You look at the spending. If you go to the national debt, the debt is not decreasing under Trump. It's not. It's increasing because they're just. I already said it. They're transferring money from this hand to that hand. It's whoever the leader is the hands they get the money. When Trump became president, he announced $500 billion for new technologies in AI. Here it is, 100 days in, and who's saying that they're going to invest $500 billion? Wow, Palantir. Wow, how about that? Isn't that interesting?
All of his friends, but what has changed? Every administration has done this. From
the
Reagan,
only thing that's gotten worse is the surveillance systems. We've lost freedoms. We've lost liberties. We've lost the right to be human.
Right.
Every single day we lose it a little bit more.
And that's happened after the false flag of 9/11, and that was a part of the plan. So yeah, definitely.
And then, so this goes back to This goes right back to the beginning of our podcast when we were talking about India, Pakistan, Israel. These small wars are the stepping stones to get to where the big guys end up being. So it's all a massive circle. It's all a big game.
Of course. Well, yeah. I mean, who do you think is back in India? Israel. Who do you think is back in Pakistan? China. Iran. I mean, they're linked together.
Russia's back in Iran. So I mean, it's like, all these little proxy wars they're come from the big guys, and the money the money exchangers, just goes from one hand to the next.
I know. And you know what? War is profit. We know that. Everybody knows that. But what's interesting about Pakistan and India, it's right on China's border. You don't think they have You don't think they
Well,
have a interest going on there? Like, hey, wait a minute, this shit's on our border.
well, you know what's amazing is we've done this whole podcast, we haven't even mentioned anything about Taiwan.
No, and it's been very quiet. I told you my theory on Taiwan. I told you that it's become expendable. And now that the mineral deals are like 100%, it seems like they're right now. Last time I read that they're like, it's almost done. That Taiwan,
I did read that too.
Taiwan will be like, okay, I think there'll be some kind of deal. And you said too, they're going to barter some deal with China, America, and Taiwan. And America will say, well, we want this for Taiwan. China say, go ahead, but we're taking Taiwan, and America will just let it happen.
Right. I agree.
I think they need Taiwan no more because they're going to have all the semiconductors out of Ukraine. All the natural resources coming out of there are enough to make semiconductors. And it won't be, well, I heard somebody tell me the other day, well, that's gonna take forever. No, it won't. With the technology they have, it'll be quick. Within a few years, a year, they're gonna do all that. So that's it's not gonna take forever. And that's my theory is you might see China make a move. I don't know when, but when they do, it's not the end of the world. They're going to push it like it's the end of the world. And if they want to crash the market, they can use that to crash the market. But that's my theory. That might not happen. I kind of see that because now that America doesn't really need Taiwan right now, the semiconductors, that was the big thing.
Yeah.
That was
the chips West and all that. Yeah.
I find it funny that now, of course, they're in Ukraine. It's always resources. It has nothing to do with what they tell you. And that's a big thing is those rare earth minerals. And now that they got that there, I don't think they need Taiwan. Am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely correct. I mean, if they get all those minerals like they're saying they're going to, then the ones that they seem to be finding in America as well, they may not need Taiwan nearly as much as they have in years past.
Right. Yeah. And before it was, remember when they needed the computer chips and everything was shut down? And you couldn't. I mean, I remember driving by car lots, right? Auto dealers. There were nothing.
Right.
Nothing. And that's why used cars were a hot commodity.
Yes,
they weren't making cars because of the
they could not get the chips to make the cars. Yes, remember that? Yes.
Ukraine, they got a stronghold. And like I said, like you said too, everything's linked together. Syria, Ukraine, Taiwan, it's all the same major players.
Yes.
So I'm going to look and see what happens with India and Pakistan. If something big will happen, it will happen in the next 24 to 48 hours. If not, then it won't. Maybe that's a big nothing burger, but that's either going to be something really minute or really big. So I don't know.
Well, they're not getting water. They got to get water from somewhere, and water is life. Period. Just like you said, the next 24 to 48 hours are going to be absolutely critical.
It's going to be big. I want people to pay attention. If you find out, whatever, send me something in the middle of the night. I've been watching, like I said, the Canadian prepper and the New York prepper, and I think Infowars had a few articles on it, and they said how big this was. Of course, the mainstream media is kind of talking about it, but then again, they're gonna whatever. We know what the lamestream media is all about.
Right.
But I don't know.
I always check a few resources, and then I check a few alternative ones like Mike Adams and that. Yeah. I just try to compare notes and see, who's saying what, and then you got to almost kind of figure out, almost like piece it together. Like, what are they trying to tell you, and where do you think it's really going? They never come out flat and tell you what's going on.
No, of course not. Of course not. I mean, that goes back to the Operation Mockingbird, the CIA controlling the media.
Oh yeah.
Back to
Operation Paperclip, all that stuff. Crazy.
Yeah, that's the Nazis and them coming to work for our government.
Yeah.
Right.
But the government loves you, Dino. The government loves you.
Yeah.
Don't forget that.
Much right. They love me so much that they call me every now and then to ask me questions. Right. Definitely. Yeah. I might get a call when I get off the phone. Who knows? I might be a Manchurian candidate.
They'll be knocking on my door.
What's that?
They'll be knocking on my door.
What? Yeah, we're already on that no-fly list. Trust me.
Oh yeah. I'm proud to be on that red list.
So, is there anything else you'd like to talk about?
Actually, I'm good. I'm a little bit under the weather, and I'm kind of struggling a little bit. But I did want to come on.
Yes.
Whenever I get a chance to be a co-host, I always want to take that opportunity.
Thank you.
So I want to thank you again for asking me and letting me be on with your show.
And you know what? Maybe in 2 weeks or in a week, I'll get you, Rick, and Dean's coming back from gay camp. So I'm sure he'll be standing up the whole interview, but we'll get together and we'll talk, and it'll be great fun. Who knows what's going to happen in 24 hours, man? I could be back.
I'll feel better by then too.
Who knows what can happen in 24 hours? I'm just telling people, keep your eyes on the prize. We're going to go. Next week, we'll be back in our studio. So I just want to thank everybody for watching, and thank you, Kaz. You're very informative and very educated. And next week, we'll have something new. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Thank you so much. Oh, we didn't do asshole of the week.
My asshole of the week is Dean, because he's still on vacation. No, you know what? Yeah, I didn't do an asshole of the week this week, but I will next week.
Well, my asshole of the week is Trump because of the tariff. 1 minute they're on, 1 minute they're off. 1 minute they're on, 1 minute they're off. 1 minute they're on, 1 minute they're off.
Like I said months ago, I'm fair with Trump. I want to give him a shot. There's, like I said, but yeah, I said this a while ago, and I told Dean, I don't like that he, either shit or get off the pot. Either do it or don't, because if you're calling the bluff, they're not going to believe it.
It don't look good. It don't look good at all.
It don't. No, definitely not. But hey, if there's anything else you'd like to talk about?
No, I'm good. I think we had a good show. I really do.
Yeah. This was kind of real quick, because we're doing maintenance.
Yeah, we definitely had some technical difficulties today, so bear with us.
Yeah, right. Definitely. But next week, join us. We'll have a great show. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Kaz.
You're welcome. Thank you, buddy.